Shabbat Shalom. It is such a pleasure to welcome you this beautiful Pittsburgh evening. I'm hoping the sunset does its thing for those of us who are here in person in the Beit Tefillah, and to those who are joining us in sacred virtual community, we welcome you as well. You may notice that the bima looks just a little bit different this evening as we are honored to, right? There's a lulav and an etrog, and that's a little bit different, right? Specific to this Shabbat Chol HaMoed Sukkot. But also, we are excited to welcome our musician in residence, the director of Liturgical Arts at the Hebrew Union College Jewish Institute of Religion Cincinnati campus, one of my teachers, Cantor Yvon. It is such a pleasure to get to spend Shabbat together, to have you for a weekend not only of bringing beautiful music, but serving as a teacher in our community. Cantor Shor is with us tonight, and for Torah study tomorrow morning, with our cantorial search committee tomorrow evening, with our whole congregation for Simchat Torah that we'll celebrate on Sunday morning. I'll pitch you on all of these later. For now, would you grab those prayer books under your chair that we might turn to page 10 and recognize how wonderful it is to be together this evening?
As we join together.
You know, Sukkot is in the air. When the leaves start to change colors, I hope that your yards are looking as beautiful as mine, although maybe not quite as beautiful, so you don't have quite as many leaves to pick up. But it is that time of year when we wake up to very cool mornings and very cool evenings, and we need the warmth, the comfort that not only your presence, but that Shabbat itself provides. We turn back in our prayer book to page 2, welcoming the lights of Shabbat. It is a pleasure to invite forward Juno to kindle our Shabbat lights on page 2. I invite you now to turn to page 5 as we bring into this space the sweetness of Shabbat with our evening Kiddush. If it's comfortable for you to do so, I'd invite you to rise as we join in prayer together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotov v'ratzavanu v'shabbat kodesho be'ohavo v'ratzon hinchilanu zikaron le'masei v'reishit ki hu yom techila Mikra'ei kodesh zechel etziot b'Yitzrayim ki vanu b'charta ve'otanu kiddashta mikol ha'amim v'shabbat kodshecha
Friends, you're welcome to be seated. As we continue in our prayer books on page 11, we're familiar with Ahad Ha'am, quote, more than the Jewish people have kept Shabbat. Shabbat has kept the Jewish people, yet we recognize the benefit to each of us of having a space for Shabbat in our lives, the opportunity to take a deep breath, to step back perhaps, to refocus. And indeed, we're told 3 prayers down that when we keep Shabbat, God watches over us, for Shabbat is a sign between us and our God forever.
Join with me, Ki Eshmer Shabbat. Ki Eshmer Shabbat, Yishmereini. Ki Eshmer Shabbat, Yishmereini. Oti le'ol me'ad beino ve'ini. Oti le'ol me'ad beino ve'ini. Ki eshmer Shabbat, ki eshmer Shabbat, yishmereini. Ki eshmer Shabbat, yishmereini. Oti le'ol me'ad beino ve'ini. Oti le'ol me'ad beino ve'ini.
Service continues on page 12 as we continue to sing our way into Shabbat, words of Psalm 95, the top of page 12.
Lechu neranena l'Adonai, nariya letzor yisheinu, dekadmo fanav betoda, bizmirot nariya lo, dekadmo fanav betoda, bizmirot nariya lo. Now this Hebrew might be a little tricky for folks, especially if it's a psalm that's not right on the tip of your tongue. So you know what? God understands yada la 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 too. So it's an easy folk melody, so just yada da along. We're going to go through the second verse and end with that. Ki el gadol Adonai umelech gadol al kol Elohim asher beyado mechkerei haaretz v'tovot harim lo asher beyado mechkerei haaretz v'tovot harim lo.
With apologies, in case you have the same vantage point that I do, there is simply a minor fender bender taking place outside. Everyone looks good, but if you can also see the flashing lights, that's what is going on. It is nothing at all to be concerned about. Everyone looks safe. They just decided to make their cars join together for Shabbat. How sweet of them, at least in intention. Let's hope they have good insurance. We turn now to page 17 in our Siddur. Page 17, the Hebrew text is right at the bottom where the Hebrew and English meet. Exalt Adonai, our God. Bow toward God's holy hill, for Adonai, our God, is holy. These words from Psalm 99, perhaps most familiar to us from our Torah service, where we hear them regularly. And here I will take that opportunity for a Sunday morning pitch at 11 a.m. If we have enough adults, we're going to not only sing this prayer and many like it, but unroll the Sefer Torah as part of our Simchat Torah celebration as we read the end of the book of Deuteronomy, as we begin again the book of Bereshit. And I look forward to celebrating the conclusion of Sukkot and celebrating Simchat Torah with all of you at 11 a.m. on Sunday morning. For now, though, we're on page 17. Continue now, pages 20 and 21, welcoming God's presence, Shabbat's presence, into this space with us, as did the mystics in northern Israel with words of Lecha Dodi. We join together, pages 20 and 21.
Lecha Dodi likrat kala yadadai yadadai yadadai. Shabbat nekabela lechadoti likrat kala yadadai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela shamor v'zachor v'tibor echad ish v'yano el hamiyuchad Shabbat. likrat kala yadarai 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 b'nei Shabbat nekabela Boi v'shalom ateret bala gam besimcha ובצהלה תוך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לחדותי לקראת קלה ידרי 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 בני שבת נקבלה לחדותי לקראת קלה ידרי 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 בני שבת נקבלה
Having welcomed Shabbat, I invite you to take this opportunity to welcome one another, that we might join in sacred community this evening by wishing your neighbor a Shabbat Shalom in person or using the comment box online.
Look at this. This is magnificent. Wow.
Friends, we continue our service. You're welcome to be seated as we turn in our prayer book to page 24, continuing our welcoming with God's ministering angels, a melody you know, and I hope you will continue to sing along with us.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boachem Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruch Hu Dil Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzeitchem l'shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
On pages 26 and 27, would you join me in the English on the bottom of page 27? Entrances to holiness are everywhere. The possibility of ascent is all the time, even at unlikely times and through unlikely places. There is no place on earth without the presence. Continue page 26.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה בעלמא יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביום בכל ובחיי דכל בית ישראל בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו יהי שמי רבה מברך לעולם ולעולמי עולמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה Bisha. Barichu Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tush bechata v'nechamata damiran me'alma ve'immeru.
We know well that the blessing we say over our Shabbat candles has a slightly different melody than the blessing we say over our Hanukkah candles. And indeed, each of our holidays are imbued with special melodies unique to that season. Sukkot is no exception. And for a number of our prayers this evening, including the next one on page 28, which is why I'm telling you about it now, you're going to hear the special melody unique to our Chagim, unique to our festivals. It may be new, and it's a wonderful opportunity to observe a different facet of this holiday as we come together in the intermediate days of Sukkot. As we turn to page 28 for our Baruch Hu praise, I would invite you to rise if it is comfortable to do so. Of page 31, would you join us in the English? Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, Hama'ariv, Aravim. And on the bottom of page 33, wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol, all these things your Torah gives to us. And the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kivod Malchuto Le'olam Vaed.
Welcome to be seated as we continue on page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת.
On page 40, we find our Mi Chamocha praise, perhaps a juxtaposition during this time of Sukkot, when we build our temporary booths, our hut, our Sukkot. They are just that. They are impermanent. They are temporary. They are fleeting. And yet the words of Mi Chamocha have transcended time, reminding us of a time that our ancestors experienced a taste of freedom. How well we are aware in each day and age exactly how fleeting that freedom can be. It requires work. It requires effort. It requires each of us to stay invested in extending that which we received as we made our way across that sea of reeds to others still in need in our time. May we recognize the temporary nature of our Sukkot as a reminder of our obligation to reach back to words of Mi Chamocha, to continue dragging them into each new day and age. We continue in our prayer book on page 40. And on the bottom of page 43, we join together. Give us a place to rest, Adonai, our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety, and in your presence are acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. And again, recognizing that covenant of Shabbat that has kept us in every day and age, we continue on the top of page 44.
השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם לדורותם ברית עולם לדורותם
We are a people in whom the past endures, in whom the present is inconceivable without moments gone by. The Exodus lasted a moment enduring forever. What happened once upon a time happens all the time. As we turn to page 46, if it is comfortable for you to do so, I would again invite you to rise as we join in our Shabbat Amidah.
Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei avoteinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanara, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevid Yola Livnei B'neihem, L'Ma'an Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer Moshia U'Magen, Baruch Atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Be'ezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Le'Hoshia, Morid Hatal, Mechalkel Chayim B'Chesed, Mechayeh HaKol B'Rachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim V'Rofeh Cholim, U'Matir Azorim, U'Mekayeh Emunato, L'Shenei Avar, Michamocha Ba'al Gevurot, U'Midom Elach, Melech V'Mit, U'Mechayeh, U'Matzmiach Yeshua, V'Ne'eman Atah L'Chayot HaKol, Baruch Atah Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol. Atah Kadosh V'Shimcha Kadosh, U'Kadoshim B'chol Yom Yehalelucha Selah, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
The remaining blessings of our Amidah can be found through page 62, and I would invite you to continue with the words of our tradition or with the silent prayers that can only come from our own hearts. When you have finished your silent prayer this Shabbat, I invite you to be seated.
Shalom,
The sense of fullness that Shabbat brings to our heart. We bring to mind at this time those in our community who may not feel that same sense of peace this Shabbat, those who may be suffering from ailments of mind, of body, of spirit. If there are those whom you are thinking of, for Mishaberach Lecholim, I would invite you to share their name with the community.
Cantor.
Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh HaCholim. Blessed are you, God, who brings a measure of comfort to all who are ill.
Amen. We continue with the prayer that Moses offered his sister Miriam for health. El na refana la. 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 This is a new experience. As I'm singing, the rabbi has gone and taken a seat in the congregation. I guess that's a hint that, was I the one supposed to give the sermon tonight?
I do like the view from out here. A little bit better than I like it from up there.
Well, this is a surprise. No. Oh, Chavre, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
You have no idea the sense of pride and joy in sharing a pulpit with Rabbi Aaron Meyer. The last time he was a student, and now he is absolutely a cherished, beloved rabbi, and I see all the impact that is happening in this community and beyond the greater community in Pittsburgh, and it's really exciting to be here and quite humbling. So, Moadim l'simcha, the traditional greeting we say during this season. May your times in this special season be happy. I had the distinct honor to study in Israel during my first 2 years of cantorial school. It was there I experienced Sukkot in a way I could never have dreamed of. The day after Yom Kippur, the streets of Jerusalem sprang forth with such festive hustle and bustle. Crowds of men and boys gathered around large plastic buckets, teeming with everything you'd need to make a lulav. Bushels of beautiful willow, palm, and myrtle. The men would painstakingly fish out one thin branch in one hand, and in the other take up a jeweler's loop and inspect every single leaf of myrtle or willow, just as if they were inspecting some kind of flawless diamond. They took their time, and once they found the perfect specimen, they haggled with the merchant on a price and triumphantly brought their precious ritual object home. Only in Jerusalem, I thought. How crazy for something that was going to be shaken all around and ultimately beaten up on Hoshana Rabbah. But I understood their earnestness, the desire to swing into the new year freshly dedicated to spend more time on the Jewish path, and so diligently preparing for Sukkot. Now, for the rest of Israeli society, their impulse purchase at the grocery store checkout line, instead of a pack of gum, a lulav and an etrog. Unbelievable. And prior to that, the only time I'd even seen one set of lulav was at the synagogue, much less thousands. I didn't know there was a special carrying case for a lulav, but throughout the Chag, you would see these large plastic holders with a lulav in it. Imagine everybody you pass in the street holding a lulav. What a sight to see.
Now, freestanding houses in Jerusalem are also quite rare, but overnight, each one, along with the rooftops of apartments, courtyards, and balconies, saw simple Sukkot spring up. Many of them held a few simple drawings from children, but each had plastic tables, chairs, because the mitzvah of eating and residing inside was really taken to heart. Gone were the beautiful American-style Sukkot that I was used to, these huge versions in congregations, usually teeming with gourds and pumpkins and plastic fruit hanging down, just magnificent. And a Chag is a festival. So it is linked to the fall harvest. When the ancient Israelites made their pilgrimage up to the Temple Mountain in Jerusalem, I'm sure you've all heard this already from Rabbi Meyer, to offer their sacrifices in honor of the fall harvest. They built Sukkot, simple booths in the fields, to gather that harvest so as not to lose time going back and forth from their home. As such, decorating a sukkah with fall bounty makes sense. But in Israel, I saw that the focus was not on heavy decorations, rather on two main concepts that, unbeknownst to Rabbi Meyer, he already telegraphed when he talked about that beautiful iyun for Michamocha, great minds. So in honor of both years living in Israel, I need to beg your indulgence because I'd like to present you with both concepts. You get a twofer sermon. See, you only came for one, you get two. But the first concept is that the Sukkot is a temporary dwelling. In our text, dedicated on how we observe many of the commandments, the Shulchan Aruch, it states, one should eat and drink and live in the sukkah, both day and night, as one lives in one's house on the other days of the year. For 7 days, a person should make their home their temporary dwelling, and their sukkah their permanent dwelling. Now, if, like most American Jews, your experience with the sukkah is the beautiful one found in your temple, I still love the one that I grew up with. Dare I say it was rather Disney-like in its beauty and perfection. Our connection with the sukkah is often something to marvel at, not necessarily something to live inside. Yet simplicity is what defines a sukkah, and the commandment to dwell within it is a major component of the festival. It's as if ancient Israel and the rabbis of old understood the human desires towards excess. In her article for the American Psychological Association journal entitled Consumerism and Its Discontents, Tori DeAngelis writes, materialistic values may stem from early insecurities and are linked to lower life satisfaction. According to psychologists, accruing more wealth may provide only a partial fix. Chevre, dealing with the exorbitant cost of housing, utilities, upkeep, not to mention every item we think we need to buy, replace, remodel, upgrade in order to have a comfortable home, is exhausting at best, and at worst can leave us with crippling debt. The number of items we own has repercussions far beyond individual household finances. The stats are staggering. The EPA estimates 9 tons of furniture alone go into U.S. landfills every year. We generate nearly 7 million tons of e-waste, that is, electronics, gadgets. There are over 11 million tons of textile waste annually. And we've all seen those images of the huge stacks of clothing being picked through by children and adults because the fast fashion industry is filling our landmines. And this excess is traveling far beyond the borders of the United States. I just threw out a lot of big numbers to you. If I break it down and divide it across every person in the United States, it's the equivalent of each one of us throwing out 198 pounds of household items every year. Chevre, observing the commandment to eat and sleep in the sukkah is a great solution. It is the original tiny house movement. We Jews have Marie Kondoed long before Netflix made her popular book into a series. Once a year for 7 days, we're to take only the bare necessities into a temporary dwelling that we build. We're there to see the sky, which reminds us of our responsibility to preserve and care for nature. Through a temporary dwelling, we are commanded to reconnect with simplicity. And when the Chag ends, I'm surprised you didn't yell out just then. When the Chag ends and we return inside, we appreciate what we have and we reevaluate exactly what it is that we need. Now, the second observance I learned in Israel is the Ushpizin, the Ushpizin. Now, like the lulav holder, I never heard of this. And my family, we were not the twice a year in Hanukkah Jews. We were there all the time. Shabbat, we observed the holidays. But this word, Ushpizin, it is in Aramaic. That is the language of the Kaddish. It's not in Hebrew. And it means the guests in the sukkah. The Kabbalistic text, the Zohar, states the Ushpizin are 7 ancient worthies who visit the homes of the pious Jews to share their dinner on Sukkot. Cynically, you can think of them as 7 freeloaders during Sukkot. They are Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Aaron, and David, Ida J. Jam. And each night we symbolically invite one in, just like you do for Elijah on Pesach. But it's the ritual of the Ushpizin that got me in Israel, because the mitzvah translates into hospitality. During Sukkot in Israel, you'd better make allowances to get from point A to point B, because if you pass a sukkah and there's someone inside, you will be invited in. And it is a mitzvah to share a meal. You can gain 20 pounds during Sukkot, just going from sukkah to sukkah the whole time. No one is afraid. Everyone is cheerful and excited to welcome you in, to talk together, to get to know you, and to see how everything's going. Strangers, friends, good conversation, just a brief visit or longer. In a country that knows terrorism daily, they are not deterred. How far away we have fallen in America from open hospitality. Do we jump for joy when the doorbell rings unexpectedly, or do we jump with fear? A moment of frozen paralysis, wondering, even annoyed, who is it? Ironically, it was on Sukkot, just this past Monday, that I took a very long walk in the afternoon to go to a local park. After a couple of hours as I neared a park, I happened on a parked Tesla that was still running. The owner clearly meant to shut it off because they'd folded in the side mirrors. I walked to the closest house, rang the bell, knocked on the door, no answer. Next house, and the next house. And when I looked back, I could see the curtains moving. After one of the houses, a woman came out and said, "What do you want?" I told her that I was trying to find the owner of a soon-to-be dead Tesla because it needed to be shut off on the street. Her response? She was going to call the police. Now, lest you think I was walking in some very dangerous area, this happens to be one of the most upscale areas in Cincinnati. These are multi-million-dollar properties. How sad. Undeterred, I went to the next house, and I could see a person sitting on this plush white sofa, scrolling through their phone. They looked up, saw me, and leaned forward so that they didn't have to see out the door. Oh no, I just knocked harder. And when they came up and I explained, they said, "Well, it's not my Tesla. I don't know whose it is." By this point, I had already burned 20 minutes. I said, I'm just going into the park. And as I walked into the park, I came upon this young woman who was pushing a baby carriage in one hand and had the leash of a big golden lab in the other, and he had 2 big tennis balls in his mouth. And of course, the lab was trying to play fetch with me. And I said, "By the way, did you happen to own a black Tesla?" She did. I said I'd been looking for the owner, been knocking on the doors, and I understood because I own a hybrid that it's easy. They're so quiet to get distracted and forget to turn them off. Well, she reared back and said, it couldn't be my car. I never get distracted, and I don't forget to shut my car off. And off she stormed. I had to laugh. If only these people had the slightest concept of the Ushpizin. It's Sukkot. How different their lives would be, how different our lives would be. It is nearly impossible to push away the disturbing news of the day, to ignore the times in which we live, and yet, how much paranoia, fear, and ignorant violent acts are a result of people feeling alienated. Alienation buys into conspiracy theories. Alienation sees people as other. Alienation sees themselves as other. I don't need to tell this community that the horrors of anti-Semitism are real. Pittsburgh has felt its deathly legacy, and I am not here to admonish this Jewish community in any way, shape, or form. I merely want to remind us that hospitality and a willingness to be open, to welcome people into our midst, is the Jewish way. It's an ongoing commandment that strengthens community and helps bridge the gaps which lay beyond. So, there you have it, your two sermons, simplicity and hospitality. Those experiences in Jerusalem shaped how I have helped bring the observance of Sukkot back to members of congregations and communities I've served, and to the rabbinical students I have humbly taught over these last 19 years, to reclaim the joy and deep meaning Judaism brings to our lives. We are here tonight to celebrate, to pray and gain strength, to reinforce beliefs and universal values through this religion and this people with pride. Having just experienced Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, where we say we wish to return to our highest selves, and in so doing, admit our failures and sins. For the sin of excess, Sukkot lets us temporarily divest of that which we do not need, and fosters a vital reconnection with each other. During Chol HaMoed, these interim days of Sukkot, the traditional greeting, Moadim l'simcha, may your times in this special season be happy. And the response is Chagim uzmanim l'sason. The festivals and times of celebration are for rejoicing. May this Sukkot bring each of us a renewed sense of wonder for the bounties of nature, a deep appreciation for all that we have, and the limitless joy that comes from sharing it with family, friends, and our precious greater community. Moadim l'simcha, Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you.
The Rabbi will now sing a sermon anthem.
You're all welcome. Let's sing together, perhaps, on the bottom of page 282. Later the Shabbat, at the bottom of page 282. When you find your page, I would invite you to rise.
Aleinu l'shavech l'ador, l'ateg dunal yotzer reishim, shelo asanu b'goyei haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samchatinu gohem, v'gor aleinu kechol ha'onam, v'anachnu nurid, u'mishtachim Shemo echad.
You may be seated. As we turn to page 294 in our Sidurim, we remember those who have gone before us. We observe the period of Shaloshim for Robert Brandigy, Paula Brandt, and Lillian Markowitz, and mark the Yartzeit, the commemoration of the passing of Lynette Barr, Stanley Bonheim, Marion Brown, Harry Burston, Meyer Copeland, Fred Dickinson, Sheila Frankel, Naomi Friedman, Robert First, Tanya Gorbate, Mordecai Green, Ann Harris, Leanna M. Herman, Pearl Levin Jacobson, Pearl Beanstalk Kantrowitz, Joseph Maiolo, Charlotte McKay, Sally Naft, George Roche, Jerry Rosenblum, Meyer Rosenthal, Ida Friedman Roy, Fanny Rubenstein, Carl Ruck, Anthony Santagati, Viola Santagati, Clara Shlonsky, Faye Schloss, Marion Silver, Dr. Maxwell Silver, Rose Simon, Maurice Sloan, Sylvan Solid, Belle Takna, Ruben Tannenbaum, Bertha Tischler, and David Zaslow. Belle Takna, Ruben Tannenbaum, Bertha Tischler, and David Zaslow. If there are others you are remembering this Shabbat, or if I have inadvertently mispronounced the name of a loved one, I would invite you to share their name at this time. Yehi zichronam livracha. May the memory of all of our loved ones be for us an everlasting blessing. We affirm words of Kaddish Yatom, page 294, and I would again invite you to rise if it's comfortable to do so. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabba belma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei mechayechon uvyomechon uvchaye dechol Beit Yisrael ba'gala v'zman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehi shemei rabba mevarach le'alam ulamei amaya yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yita'aleh v'yithalal shemed kudsha b'richu le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom bimromav hu yaseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May God, who makes peace in the highest of heavens, make peace for us and for all who mourn. And together we say, Amen. I invite you to be seated. Before we conclude our service, page 321, a number of thank yous this evening. Cantor, sure, it is an honor to get to share this pulpit again, to have you as all of our teachers this evening and indeed throughout our weekend. Tomorrow morning's Torah study begins at 9 a.m. here in the community room or on Zoom. Everyone is welcome to join us to continue learning with Cantor Shore. Members of our Cantor Search Task Force will be joining together tomorrow evening for an opportunity to think, strategize, learn. Havdalah will be live streamed at 8 o'clock as usual. And on Sunday morning at 11 a.m., we invite everyone to join us as we join with our religion school students and families, as together we get to celebrate Simchat Torah, as we get to bring that joy from the conclusion of Sukkot, the celebration with our Torah scrolls, the celebration with one another. All are needed, for indeed we need a lot of older people rather than our religious school students to help hold that Torah, that we might safely unroll it. I know it will be in good hands if you are able to join us, and I invite you to do so. As always, a tremendous thank you to you, Jim Burns, for being with us on this Shabbat and many others, and Leslie Hoffman, our production guru this evening. Thank you so much. We turn in our prayer book, page 321.
And we'll have the first verse and the last verse of Adon Olam.
Adon Olam, Hashem Malach, B'terem Kol, Yitzir Nivra, וישמע ירא אדון עולם, וימרוכי גבי אותי, אדון לי ולא ירא אדון עולם, אדון עולם. אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, לעת נשא בחפצו כל. אזוי מלך שמו נקרא אדון העולם.
Please join us for a nosh Shabbat. Shalom.
Shabbat shalom לכולם.